Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our December 16th council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes? Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Here.
Dr. Hayes had said he would be missing tonight's meeting. Could I have a motion to excuse him?
I'll make a motion, we excuse Dr. Hayes. Second.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 2nd, 2013. Any additions or corrections?
No additions or corrections, Jeremy, I make a motion to accept them as they stand.
Second.
Motion made by George, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Approval manifest 2013-24 in the amount of $446,365.71. Chris.
I got a couple, Jeremy. Page 1, under buildings and grounds. I know we talked about this, might have been a year or two ago, but the sparkle cleaning and maintenance. Did we ever talk about maybe going back out for bid on that? I don't know if that price has gone up a little bit. Looks like it's higher than.
Yeah, we've gone out to bid a number of times
Okay.
for that, so we just have to look and see, when the last time, but I believe it wasn't that long ago, was it, Trish?
Yeah, he's always adjusted. 'Cause
We look at it pretty much on an annual basis.
It hasn't been, it looks like it's gone up by about $20-$30 in the last,
Just in the last month or so.
it seems like it's higher. I remember it
Okay,
like
well,
$485 or something.
we'll review that.
Okay. Page 2, under Public Works, about halfway down, rotor assembly, rotor drive hub, $6,000. It's on number 129A.
Joe, are you familiar with that one?
Rotor assembly, rotor drive hub, parts.
Looks like there was a lot of work done on that 129A. There was two more.
I'm thinking, I don't know, but I will get the right answer for you. But what comes to mind is that's probably the parts we're paying for the blower.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
snow blower, because we rebuilt it.
Yes, okay,
And that's the only thing we've been doing that would cost that kind of money.
okay. I got one more here, two more. Under television, I don't know if this was a misprint or not, but one satellite receiver for almost $4,300. Seems a little high. Maybe just look into that.
And I know we were quoted on that,
Is
but
that
I don't know, remember what the quote was.
okay?
I'll check on that.
And then on page 6 under electric, 10 red oak cants for $360.
Yes, those are 6x6 timbers that we had cut to support the new replacement transformer for the substation.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, George.
A good number, Jeremy. Back on page 1. Radio subs down on the bottom for police department, radio subs. 2 full-time and 3 level 7 and 3 police officers. Is that training or?
No, that's on a payment that we have to make to the state for the tower. That's based on the number of, that's based on personnel.
On a tower, Ray, you said?
Yeah, well, it's the 900 megahertz system.
The police,
state-
the
state
police
police
radio
radio.
system.
Okay.
It's
And
the
that
state police radio system.
tower is where?
Well, it's the statewide system, so
Oh,
it's the high frequency system.
Page 3. Drinking water supplies, $169 for Norway Springs. Is this, I hope this isn't monthly. Fire department?
Yeah, fire department, I don't think it's a monthly cost. What they do is they have bottled water that they bring out onto the, at the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't believe it's a monthly charge. I think they just have a certain amount in stock.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't give how much or quantity or anything, right? That's,
Okay.
I guess we're.
I can, George, I'll check on that and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, page 4. This Spring Valley Ranch Corporation for this land contract. I know, Ray, this is kind of subject that kind of went through the council here in the past year. It's kind of a sore spot for me. You know, here, I guess on one hand, we're trying to sell land. On the other hand, we're buying land. And basically, you know, I guess the idea behind it is for, to join this land so we can get tax purposes, the tax base off of it. But the bottom line is, how much out there are we getting a return on? And I don't think there's anyone in this room is gonna live long enough to see us ever get any return on this land out there. I mean, you know, I'm not condemning the council because when I was on the council here back, we bought them 40s out at, by the golf course. So I'm not condemning the council, but my point is we should be starting to look at getting rid of some of this land, which we are, you know, land that's out of the city limits and everything. But even this year, I mean, basically, we're land poor. You know, we're making payments on land and we can't even make payments on fixing the sidewalks and streets. I mean, this is my point of view. I know you're probably on the other side and I hope it's much better than what mine is because I just can't see it, that we're buying more land and we can't even maintain what we got. I just want to express myself on that. Page 6. Oh, I'm sorry. I was questioning this bottom article, but there's an exclamation on it in the raised notes. That's it.
Lee?
One item here, the rest were pretty much covered under electric utility. Page 5, this low-income heating assistance program, 2093. Could you explain that, Ray? I know what it is, but I can't put it in words. You can do it much better.
All right, which page?
Page 5, top item there, that low-income heating assistance that we're pretty much corralled into doing.
All right, that's the state program. What it is that, again, this past year, the state had a program that was funded through the general fund of the state. Early in the year, the governor had, through the budget process, had instructed, I think it was generated through the Senate, but he pretty much instructed the legislature that that program was no longer, he would not pass a budget with it funded through the general fund. So what they did was they reviewed another way of funding a low-income heating assistance program, and they chose to have statewide a program where monies would be collected from the electric utilities based on meters, and that money would be utilized for for assistance. It would be handled through DHH.
Very good explanation. Is that that's our first payment now, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and is that for like 3 months, 4 months? What is that for?
It's a monthly.
That's going to be monthly from
That's a
now on, that
monthly.
much? Okay. Then one other thing, seeing as Mr. Ball brought it up, what was the total cost on that Spring Valley Ranch, the land that the council bought?
Well, I don't have that figure.
Mary, do you have that figure? I want to say it was around 114,000. I could be a couple off.
I think you're in the ballgame.
When that came up, George, it was a good buy, but I was the only one that voted against it. Just wanted to make that clear. And for some reason, that total figure never made the media. I don't know why. It was mentioned at the council meeting a couple times. That's all I have.
All my questions have been answered. Does anyone from the audience have any questions on the manifest? Okay, need a motion to approve.
Make a motion, we approve manifest 2013-24 in the amount of $446,365.71.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Ball,
Trish, I'd like it be noted that I will support the motion, but I am against this land contract payment. Okay.
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Mr. Menigini,
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein.
Yes.
Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes, manifest, or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes. If not, there'll be a time for further comment on any subject at the end of the meeting. Okay, this evening we have 6 appointments and presentations, beginning with the Downtown Development Authority.
Excuse me, Jeremy. Don't we usually do this first meeting in January, or am I wrong?
We have been, but the boards are supposed to go into effect beginning of January. So we're actually getting ahead of the game this year and getting everything in order, so that going into January, we have all the boards.
Okay. I thought it was in January.
It normally is the first meeting in January.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like you had mentioned, there are a number of boards and committees that we have for appointments, reappointments on seats. We have been advertising for the better part of 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, for these committees through all the normal channels. And so I'll just go down through the different boards and highlight those that are seeking for appointment. The DDA is the first. It's the Downtown Development Authority. There are two members that are up for reappointment, or 2 seats up for reappointment. We have Tim Mattson and Aileen Schinderly. Both have requested reappointment for 4-year terms. Terms would run through 2017. We did not receive any other applicants.
No other questions? I will make a motion that we elect Tim Mattson and Arlene Chinnerly for both of the boards, effective December 2005. No, that's from the starting date through 12/17.
Support.
Motion made by George, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja,
Yes.
Mr. Menigini.
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein.
Yes.
Mr. Ball.
Yes.
Next, we have Parks and Recreation. Mr. Anderson.
All right, we have 3 seats that are open for appointment, and we have 2 members that are seeking reappointment, and we have Terry Spence and Darrell Harder, and then 1 new applicant, Lauren Heyman. So all 3 are seeking 3-year terms that would be expiring in January 2017.
Is there any questions or comments? Otherwise, looking for a motion to approve.
Make a motion that Terry Spence, Darrell Harder be reappointed and Lauren Heyman be appointed to the Parks and Rec Committee for 3-year terms expiring in January 2017.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Next, we have the Jake Mangini Museum Committee. Mr. Anderson.
Hey, we actually have 4 seats, 4 applicants to fill 4 seats. There were previously 2 open seats, so I'm very pleased that we were able to receive 2 additional applicants, and so we have 2 new applicants and 2 current members that are seeking reappointment. We have William Trombley and Dennis Lynch seeking reappointment, and Doug Lindley and Jacqueline Mosier seeking appointment. The 3 seats are for 3-year terms through 2017, or January 2017, and Jacqueline Mosier would be appointed for an open seat that would be expiring January of 2016.
I'll make a motion that William Trombley and Dennis Lynch be reappointed for 3-year terms expiring in January 2017, and Jacqueline Moser be appointed to serve out the term which was Sue Geeson, expiring in 2016, and Doug Lindley be appointed the open 3-year term expiring in 2017.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
On behalf of the city and the council, I would like to thank Sue Geeson and Ed Jazanovich for all the years and time they've put on the museum board. They're the ones who are electing to not seek reappointment or step down. Next, we have the Board of Tax Review. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular board is a board that has to be appointed on an annual basis. We have actually 4 applicants for 3 seats. We have George Servia, we have Fred Smith, Ron Vivio, and Darrell Harder that are all seeking terms on this board. George Servia is a reappointment, and Fred Smith and Ron Vivio and Darrell Harder are new applicants. We did not give a recommendation. This is strictly up to the council to decide. Did talk with Jim Wiseman prior to coming, and his recommendation was that it would be nice for this board to have an alternate. We haven't had alternates in the past. This has been a tough one to find willing participants. It's not the easiest board to serve on. But there are times when, especially during the mandatory office hours where the board is meeting, where on like board review day, that if somebody is missing, that it'd be nice to have an alternate. So,
Well, I'm one that's always out there just about begging people to get on these different boards. And this is the first time that I can remember in the 4 years I've been here that, hey, we got some new bodies. So I would like to make a recommendation that we appoint Fred Smith, Ron Vivio, and Darrell Harder on the Board of Review with George Servia as an alternate.
Second.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Okay, next we have the Norway Area Planning Commission.
okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this particular board is, it's a board that we sit in partnership with Norway Township as part of the legislation creating this joint planning commission. Every 2 years, we have what we call an alternating seat, and that particular seat for the past 2 years has been, and this board has been held by the City of Norway, starting in 2014. It'll be the 2014 and 2015 years. That seat is going over to the township. So we do have an open seat on this board, which unfortunately we don't have applicants at this time. Also, George Ball sat on this seat, but because of the way the legislation is written, when he became a member of the council, we would have 2 council members. We have Chris Godstein and George at this time. We talked with both members, and George, I believe you had agreed that you'd
Yes.
back off of the board. Unfortunately, that does create the open seat. I would like to take this opportunity to encourage anyone that out there that may have an interest. This is definitely a very good board to sit on, and I would encourage you to sign up. The open seat would be good through the 2014 year, so it would basically be a 1-year appointment. So at this point, we're just looking at the resignation of Mr. Ball.
And George, I'd like to thank you for your time that you had on the planning commission and for agreeing to step down because of this conflict we had.
No problem, Jeremy. I enjoyed it.
Do we need
Time
a
to get
motion
young
for that
blood
or
in.
anything?
Yeah, for accepting resignation, but
Time to get young blood in.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation of George Ball.
Second.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Abstain.
That one you can.
I'm gonna ask you, Jeremy.
The last thing we have on the appointments and presentations is the Norway Area Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Anderson.
okay, this particular board is somewhat tie-barred with the Planning Commission. This is the board that handles the judicial side of what we do. It handles any conflict, variations. Again, this is by legislation, local legislation creating this board. The alternating seat would come to the city of Norway, and we do have candidates. We have Mark Bubbalani, who's seeking reappointment for a 3-year term, and Chris Flanick is looking for a reappointment, and he would be serving as the alternating position, which is a 2-year term. And then for our alternate, then this board does need an alternate. Jeremy Oja has agreed to be appointed as the alternate. Again, there are no other applicants, and
If somebody from the public would want to sit as the alternate on the ZBA, I would step down. But at this time, we do need an alternate, and I'll agree to fill the position if the council appoints me. But like I said, if somebody in the public wants it, apply. You can still apply, and I'll step down as the alternate at that point.
just a point of procedure, with open seats or in this type of situation, we keep the applications open. You know, we're gonna keep advertising. So when an applicant comes in, we would be able to move to the next council meeting. So,
I'll make a motion that Mark Bablani be reappointed representing the city of Norway for a 3-year term. Chris Flanick be appointed to represent the city in the alternating position for a 2-year term, and that Jeremy Oja be appointed as alternate.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. That's it for our appointments and presentations this evening. Now we're going to move into our communications for the evening. Of that, we have 5 items on communications this evening. So the first one is the approval of the Sturgeon Falls hydroelectric proposal to provide engineering services. Mr. Anderson.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a regular and annual basis, we bring to council a request to continue our contract with Mead and Hunt for engineering services. The main portion of their responsibility in this area falls within licensing requirements, annual licensing requirements that we have for our Sturgeon Falls hydroelectric license. And as I put together within the report, this is something that is extensive. Coming up this particular year, We have about 5 items, 4 or 5 items that have been added during the course of the year. And that is one of the reasons why I mentioned in my report that the estimate, the budget that we approved starting July 1st does not meet the budget that was put together, request by Mead and Hunt. Again, we highlighted those items. Also within this is the request from the Wisconsin DNR for consideration for selling properties in Wisconsin, city-owned properties. It is within the FERC licensing area, which requires a certain amount of work to make that happen. It's something that's going to happen over the course of 2014. So that also has been added to their engineering request. The total that they're requesting is $71,600. And I'm going to, at this time, see if Joe has anything he wants to add to that explanation.
As you see in my write-up, the italicized stuff are all new requests. Typically, historically, over the last 5 to 6 years, we've been spending somewhere, I think it says it in here, about $18,000, if I remember correctly, a year on this function. And I do want to point out that the way that Mead and Hunt works this is that they're asking for $71,600. That is their estimate on what it'll take to complete. And in the past years, myself or a staff member here at the city has been able to provide them with some assistance, and we have not spent what they've ever asked. They just charge us by the hour up to that $71,600. So if there's less hours to do what needs to be done here and we help out, then the bill gets less, but I can't really say right now what that would be at this time. So,
Well, and over half this cost is that land, is to handle the land transfer.
that's correct.
Which we could actually reimburse back once we sell the land.
Once the sell of the land, yeah.
Now, personally, I think the $38,000, they said, worst-case scenario here, I think that's a little on the ridiculous side. But I understand what it says here, Joe, under the 5 new items mandated by FERC or requested by FERC, which is, might as well call it a mandate. Could you just give a brief description of each one so the public will hopefully listen to this and understand it?
The public safety update is we have to prepare a map of the grounds and all of the fencing, boat barriers, all the different things that we do down at the hydro to protect the public from the hydroelectric facility. Dam safety, the DSMMR update is another dam safety. They've gone way out on an extra limb, if you want to say it that way, and making sure that we do everything we can for dam safety. So this is another update. And the ODSMP is the dam owners' safety. If you recall, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, we came to council where we asked you to agree that owning a hydro was a high priority, and you understand that. We're going to do everything we can. We had to make that whole plan up.
Yeah.
Well, we have to update that again.
We have to update it when we just completed it? Okay.
Yes, we do. The emergency action plan, high flow enhancement update. We have a booklet that says if there's a high flow emergency on the river, upstream there's a dam breach, We Energies is calling, saying there's too much water. These are the things that we are going to do, the people we contact. There's maps in there that show water inundation areas downstream from us where we actually go out to the cabins that are along the river, and if someone's there, we tell them that they need to leave because high water's coming. That needs to be taken care of. And the piezometer calibration coordination, we installed a piezometer. That's basically a meter that tells us what the water pressure is on the foundation of the hydro. And when they came for their site visit, they asked me to have it calibrated because that is what they like to see, and I didn't have it calibrated, so now I have to have it calibrated.
I see on page 6, you, dollar-wise, you have it all broke down for each one, anywhere from $1,000 to $4,100 or $5,400.
Yeah, it's all broke out there
Yeah.
of an estimate of a kind of what we think it's gonna cost to do it.
So it's a good breakdown, Joe, very good breakdown of it.
Ray, what was the asking price on the Wisconsin land?
441,000.
So, 400, what is it, 480?
Excuse me?
What was it, 400?
441.
441, so 38,000 roughly in expenses to get that moving
And,
forward.
and I really think that that estimate of 38,000 is definitely worst case. You know, we're looking at, with a public entity, with a end-use plan that fits right with what we currently are supposed to do for ourselves. So, it's just if FERC, for whatever reason, decides that they need a massive amount of paperwork and put us through the ringer, that's where it comes from.
And one correction here on that first page. Under proposal, it says Mean and Hunt. I'm assuming that's Mead and Hunt. Little misprint. I do read this stuff.
Yeah, it's Mead and Hunt.
I caught you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a recommendation that Mead and Hunt be approved to provide technical assistance to submit license compliance documents to FERC for a price not to exceed $71,600.
Support. Motion made by Lee, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the 2014 Empower GIS web hosting proposal. Mr. Anderson. I'm sorry, actually, the next thing is the USDA RD wastewater treatment plant project engineering update. Do that one first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, you threw me there.
Yeah,
Yeah, the next item is an engineering agreement with Mead and Hunt for our wastewater treatment plant. This project that we started this process in 2006, actually. This past year, we did receive notice from RD that we were moving forward, we were able to move forward with the project. We did have a meeting with RD and signed all the paperwork that they require, and so now we need to move forward in the engineering of the project. This is a $5.8 million project. The engineering for the project is $378,000, which is about 6.5% when you look at it from a percentage standpoint.
is that the engineering we've been seeing already being billed for, or is that different? Because that was also for the sewer project.
Yeah, Bruce Hawkinson's here from Mead and Hunt. He can. Why don't you come forward?
Can you come up to so people can hear you?
I didn't want to do that.
Well, the public can't hear you back there.
I haven't cleaned myself up since deer season ended Sunday. So I don't want anybody to think this is Jeremiah Johnson, Zach Brown, or someone from Duck Dynasty. It's just still me. Yeah, this project got funded some time ago, and we actually started engineering. Matter of fact, we're having a big meeting tomorrow with Ray and the staff on 65% complete review of the plans and specs. Got two guys coming up from Madison for that as well. So, but I guess the formality of getting this approved by the council had to be done. And that contract, I have a copy of it. It's, you know, it's RD, Rural Development Mandated, Engineering Joint Council Documents Committee contract. Jeremy's got it right there. It covers the design, it covers inspection, it covers everything that's going to happen with this project all the way through construction. So I don't know if there's any, if you wanted to talk at all about the project or not, or just the contract, but I guess I can answer any questions. We don't have a defined schedule yet. We got a lot to get through tomorrow, and then we'll be working on finalizing plans and specs. There's a lot of things that go into a project like this, and we were hoping that we would get through them all, get all the reviews from DEQ on the plans and specs, construction permits, all the things we need, easements that we have to find or get for not having to do with this project, but the whole sewer system as a whole. Lots of aspects to jumping through the hoops. They're hoping to bid it so that we could get concrete work and block work done before the weather got cold, so we didn't get into a cold weather construction cost as part of this. I don't really know whether it's going to happen or not. Sometimes DEQ review of these things can take 60 to 90 days, and we won't be submitting them for a number of months. So the schedule's really, we really can't define it yet at this point. If we get too late in the season, to ensure that we don't increase the cost because of the cold weather construction, we might bid the project in late summer or next fall and really not start construction the following spring. We'll have to determine that as we go along. Project significant, like Ray said. There's a lot of improvements down there we're doing. It's a low-interest loan from RD. There are two other projects that we've got funding applications in for. It's the sewer street work and the water street work that have to go together. We're anticipating that those could be funded anywhere from January till maybe June. We're in a good spot on the list with RD to get those other two projects funded. They had asked us at the time the applications were done to separate the sewer project into two components to make it easier to fund. So we separated out and had actually a separate funding application for the wastewater treatment plant stuff.
Ray, do we have a list how much we've already billed onto this? How much has already been, or charged against this?
We just had the first invoice at the last meeting for the engineering, was
That
that
was
correct?
the first one.
We've been invoicing for more than 1 month though, Ray. There's probably been 3, 4 that I think have gone through.
I don't have the list in front of me.
I don't have that with me, Jeremy, but I would
I
say,
think you still had the code from the previous though, because there's two different billings. There's one for the pre-app or the application phase, and then now we're moving.
yeah,
into
that was
engineering.
done. Yeah.
Right, but I'm
But on the
saying that
design
some
phase, since
codes
we
that
did
we had
this,
to-
yeah,
we have to look at.
I don't know what it is,
I think in
what
our
we
system,
built so far.
I've got to move those over.
But
So
it's,
we just have that right up in the next packet?
yeah, it's you know, we're at 65% completion of plans and specs, so
Right.
there has been some.
Ray, this 6.5% of the project cost engineering, that 378, that's basically off the $5.8 million project.
Correct.
How much of that is grant money?
There's no grant money in this.
None whatsoever?
No.
Okay.
In the phase 2 is where we had the grant component. That was in working with rural development, one of the reasons why it took, you know, like I said, we started in 2006. We started with one application, and then because of the trying to combine, we had to work with the authority and some of the components of the authority, and so in working with rural development, they wanted us to split that into 2 phases to deal with that issue, and then to have the water and the wastewater potentially go at the same time. The water was just the street component. That's why we split the collection component of the sewer. And again, we had to, working with them, we had to look where we put our grant request. And we
believe-
put that onto the phase 2 component.
This is just a rural development loan, I believe?
Yeah, and basically, how bad will that affect our rates? I know our other one is just about up.
Yeah, we've, you know, again, because since we started in 2006, we had been working on some operating debt, and we raised the rates substantially at that time to cover that. Over the last couple of years, we've seen that the whole idea was our rates would not be affected substantially because the operating debt would be covered or would be complete, and then we'd roll into the project debt. unfortunately, what happened is that as costs increased, you know, as we go along year after year after year, now we're going to have some increase that we're gonna have to deal with on the sewer side. What the extent of that is, that's something that we're still trying to finalize based on, you know, what the component is. We have to sit with you guys and find out, you know, we have two components of the sewer rate. You have the fixed cost, which is our meter charge, and then we have the actual sewer fee, the $8 per thousand. So we have to see how we want to split that up.
Okay.
So it's not just a straight out answer.
And then, basically on the same thing, the summary of payments to engineer here, a few pages in, actually it's page 17 on your report here. Basic services 378, then you've got a resident project observation for 240 grand, and additional services 40 grand. So to me, that puts the engineering payments up to $658,000, which would make it basically 12% of the project and not the 6.5%, or am I figuring that wrong?
No, Ray, you're right, Lee. I was gonna make a comment about that. Ray's number was really the basic services component. I don't know what you're looking at there, Lee, but, yeah, that's right out of the contract. That's in, Exhibit C. There is, that's broken down to three types of costs. They're all on a not to exceed cost.
So
are we
bottom
approving-
line, the engineering's gonna be
Yeah, it's-
12% of the project instead of the
Yeah,
6.5%.
and you know, you look at $2 million, $3 million, $2 million, maybe not three, but when you look at engineering on a $1 million project, $1.5 million project, with full-time inspection, you'll see numbers that are up around 20%.
So we would need to be approving the 658, not the
Yes.
370.
Yes.
Is 5.8, is that total?
Pardon?
Is 5.8 million, is that total cost on the whole project? Or just,
The total project cost is about I don't know exactly, it's about 5 million and change. I'd have to look at the app to really see what that number was, but it was about, the total project cost was over 5 million.
That's for this part of it,
phase
George?
1 and 2?
Phase one.
No, that's
the
just,
plant- That's the plant and taking
that's just
care
the
of the
plant.
authority. and-
The sewer street cost was a little over 2 million, I think,
I think it's just under 2 million.
or just under. It's right around 2 million, and I can't remember what the water was, Ray. I can't remember the numbers.
1.2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the plant and then transferring the authority over and ownership and that end of it. And getting rid of the authority, essentially, transferring ownership to us and to the township for their.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Comments?
What did this project start out to be anyhow, Bruce? It sure didn't seem like it did 3 years ago.
Well, these numbers have been around since we really, they fluctuated a little bit, but they've been basically around since we started working on the apps. You signed a number of them as we were going back and forth when you were mayor. They haven't changed drastically since we got going on them, actually. There's been some, but it's not been a great deal, as I recall.
Okay, anything else? Lee? Chris?
So we're approving 658.
658.
Jay, have you had a chance to look at this contract?
Yeah, I did.
What's your opinion?
It is what it is. It's what they're charging us for the services they're rendering. It looks like it's a normal contract that the engineers use. It's a published contract. And it's used by professional engineers. I've seen a lot of them. I'm fine with it. The council has to decide about the numbers, because I don't have any input on that.
Right,
But it is
I was
what it
just
is.
asking on the
Yeah,
validity.
the
of the contract.
legality, no, that's fine.
Jay had to actually sign a form that
Yeah.
RD requires
Right.
of the attorney's opinion. And it's actually in the contract, it's on the
Yeah.
last page.
Yeah, I went over it. I looked at it.
I know, but sometimes it's good just to have
Yep.
everything brought.
Yep.
What exactly is the resident project observation?
That component is really, it's really two things. It's the full-time guy down there for a year, however long the construction is taking. That's the biggest part of that. It's also a little, probably will end up being some of my time in the administration of the construction phase. But the major component of that, and that's a real, on any project, that's a real tough dart to throw. And you gotta remember that these numbers were put together a number of years ago, actually. And you have to try to figure out way back then how long of a construction period it's gonna be, how many hours a week is the contractor gonna be working, and someone's gotta be there. So you make some assumptions and you end up with a budget for this construction phase inspection stuff. And the contract has some language in it that says that, you know, we have to keep you abreast of where we are with that, and we have to come to you ahead of time. And if in fact, for some reason, there needs to be more money allocated for that, we can't just go do that. We have to come and talk to you about it, and you have to approve it ahead of time. It's a very complex subject, and it's very difficult to estimate. And you have to throw some darts on the length of construction, the contractor, how efficient he is. A lot of things go into that, Lee. And you do that, and you end up with a number. It's on a T&M, you know, a cost not to exceed, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But you start thinking about a guy full-time down there for potentially the better part of a year, that number gets up there.
So the additional services, you can just cross that off, eh?
No, that's actually several components of work that are actually broken down. It's basically any legal survey work that's got to be done for the easement thing, for any easements we need. It's an O&M manual. It's as-built. Those are all in the construction, or in the contract language that is used. There's a separate section for all those things that are classified as additional services. And so what we do, if you actually look in the engineering report, you will see a breakdown of the component of that $40,000. But it's basically those three things.
In looking through your Exhibit C, it lists Mead & Hunt's hourly rates and that for, did you guys factor in the fact that these rates are only good till December 31st? And
Actually, the rates that are in there probably are, I'd have to look, Jeremy, this was done in 2013.
right, this was,
So it is, yes. I mean, we have no idea. You know, there's always rate adjustments. People get increases in salaries, and there are rate adjustments. We don't have any concern about that going into 2014. We're not going to probably even talk about that. If this thing goes into 2015 or beyond, we may have to look at how it affects us. What really happens is it depends how the budget is going. We're actually doing pretty well right now. We got a really good guy managing this in Madison for us, and he's doing a really good job with the design team, keeping them on track. And so if the budget's doing fine, we don't have to look at any kind of issues because of stuff like that. Okay? The budget's not doing fine, and tomorrow we're going to have detailed discussions on some scope of work things. And yeah, you hope that all goes well. If we get into 2015, we're actually looking at, rates, particularly for an inspector, that might have changed twice since we put those together. But again, I wouldn't look at that going in as any kind to adjust anything, because we may get through construction and we might not even use the budgets that's there. So I wouldn't look to do any increasing until we get down the road and see if we have an issue. So.
Lee, anything else? Chris, anything? George? Looking for a motion then. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'm not going to make a motion because I'm new on this, so.
We're 65% through the design, so I would hope somebody would.
I'll make a
Jeremy,
motion that engineering contract engineering services to perform the upcoming USDA RDWWTP project with Mead & Hunt be approved for a cost not to exceed $658,000.
I'll support. Motion made by Chris, supported by myself. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, kind of makes the 71,000 not look so big, doesn't it, Lee? Listen, while I'm standing here, because I won't see you again, I'd like to wish the council Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that sort of stuff. And we'll see you after 2014 gets here. And as we get further into this thing, I'll be here more often. I can give you guys updates formally, or if you want to do something informally, we can do that too.
Thank you. Okay, now we can get into the 2014 Empower GIS web hosting proposal. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual contract that we have with Coleman Engineering. For a number of years, we've had our GIS program initiative out on our webpage and through our city system. And this Empower system that we use is housed and managed through Coleman Engineering. So we have a $5,000 per year hosting charge.
Isn't the Empower one different though than the GIS one we have
Well,
on
it's-
available to the public, or that Jim has out?
No, it's the same platform, it's just a different access. So what we have is internal, we sign in, you put in your username and password, but there's a public side. So,
Ray or Jeremy, maybe could either one of you refresh my memory here? Just within the last month, didn't we do something with Coleman Engineering on this GIS system here? I know we renewed something or just since I've been here.
Well, just a couple meetings ago, we talked about the SAW grant, which was GIS, all based, GIS based, and
okay,
Coleman.
good.
So that might be where the connection's
that's
coming
fair.
from.
that was wastewater, that was for the wastewater.
Yes, that's all. Okay, my point was this any part of this year or
No,
part
that-
of it or
What we've been
within
doing,
it or what?
what we've been working on, George, from the day we started, we had to piecemeal take parts
Yes.
of our system. We started with the land, with the property information, like through the assessor's office, tax information.
Yeah.
And then each department has its own component. Joe's been working on his part from the electrical side for how many years now? About 4?
4 to 5
4 to
years.
5, and the other departments, we haven't really moved forward. What we've done is taken the information we have, like AutoCAD drawings and some of the basic information. But what we have to do is there's much more specific information that needs to go in to truly bring the maps up to date with all the information that we have in our systems. The wastewater, what you're referring to, that wastewater component with that grant would bring that department up to speed all in one chunk,
Well, what
rather
the-
than
what
piecemeal.
this really is just for
No,
Coleman.
I Ray answered it, because I knew we had talked about it, and I know they were both with Coleman, and they were both GIS, but I didn't know where they fit in here, so that's fine, Ray,
Okay, well, and just for the public then too, what this is just to host the program on Coleman's computer, and we have access to it. This is just to run the program off of their computers and house it there.
We did also have a meeting with Empower and with Coleman to look at what it would take for us to host it ourselves. Empower has some kind of next steps with where we could go, where we're reviewing those costs, and that's something that we'll have to go through with the budget hearing.
I know
Decide.
we've talked about it a couple of times, about possibly taking that over and
Yeah.
doing the updating and everything on our own end.
If we're successful with the SAW grant application, that would speed that process up, hosting ourselves.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise,
I'll make a motion that the 2014 Empower GIS web hosting by Coleman Engineering be approved for a price not to exceed $5,000.
support.
motion made by Lee, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Ocha?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Next, approval of Sturgeon Falls hydroelectric breaker proposal. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request from the electric department for breaker maintenance down at the hydro. Joe, you want to give some details on this?
Recommended the breaker maintenance at the hydro. Those are the devices that connect the hydroelectric generator electrically to the main grid system that comes up into the city and ultimately ties up to the transmission grid. And periodically, these devices need to be maintained, taken out of service, cleaned, carbon removed from the contact points, basically just gone through, checked the coils for proper voltage to make sure that they're good so they'll keep operating. And that routine maintenance is approximately every 5 years. That 5 years comes up this year, and I want to do the maintenance on them. And I acquired 2 bids for that work, high voltage maintenance and Energis high voltage. I had used high voltage in the past, before Energis was a company out of Green Bay, and they're out of Minneapolis. Energis was the low bid for the work at the cost that you see, $5,534. Also, while Energis is here, they are going to be taking care of the new substation transformer that was delivered last week. That needs to be put together. Insulators need to be put on it. And so it's a 2-phase. This price does not include that work, but the way that's going to go down is originally the council budgeted not to exceed $150,000 for the transformer. And all of the work that I need to do on that transformer will be less than $150,000, including putting it together and testing it at the site. So
Because they're here already.
because they're already here. That's correct. This is what they specialize in. This
Do
type
you
of work.
remember, Joel, what the bid was the last time, 5 years ago on that?
I'd have to
from
look
high
it up,
voltage?
Lee.
Just out of
what we
curiosity,
paid.
could you for me?
Yeah, we
I mean,
can,
it's a big jump. There's almost $5,000, $4,000 difference there.
yeah. One of the reasons you see the big difference in the numbers between the 2 companies is the one out of Minneapolis. Obviously, there's per diems involved in that number where there isn't from the folks out of Green Bay.
Will we be able to keep the hydro on and running during this, or are we gonna have to shut down?
I'm going to have to shut it down for several hours, and I'm going to schedule it during a low priority time for the maintenance on that one breaker. It's the main breaker that ties the whole plant to the grid, and not an individual one. But I can do 4 units without any shutdown, and then 1 on a shutdown, and that'll probably happen about 2 o'clock in the morning, when the loads are down, so we don't incur any
Our
extra.
demand charge will be
Right,
minimal.
yeah, when the demand charges are down, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have an estimate then as to what this would cost us? I mean, outside of the initial project itself, because of all of a sudden we got to buy this power even at low peak? Or is that too hard to figure?
No, I can't give an exact number because I don't know how many kilowatt hours of electricity we're gonna purchase when I have it down, depending on how long it's down and everything, Lee. But if we do it in the middle of the night, we will not see any increase in our demand whatsoever because our loads are so low in the evening. And that's the biggest component on our power bill. You know, it could possibly be another $2,000, $3,000 in actual purchase power. That's about it.
Will there be a brief outage when that happens?
No, nobody will, it's seamless, nobody will know what's happening.
Okay.
I did question Joe earlier today, because in these quotes here, You said that we could use personnel if we, what you call,
Yeah,
and we could have saved $1,700. But then Joe did inform me that he's also gonna have these people do the work over here, so basically, we're not gonna utilize any savings whatsoever by our own men, because you're gonna have to have different people over on the other end, so.
Yep.
It was just a suggestion, and Joe answered it for me, so.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that Energis High Voltage be approved to perform the hydro breaker maintenance for a price not to exceed $5,534.
I'll support. Motion made by Lee, supported by myself. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes. The last thing on the agenda this evening is approval electric department transformer disposal. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The particular transformer that we're referring to is a Brown Street transformer.
Is that the lone one that stands over by Danielson's?
That's correct.
yes, that's correct.
And the oils in that transformer are contaminated. We did get two prices for removing that transformer, and one is for the oil only, the other is for the whole transformer. Even though the proposal from Clean Harbors is slightly more than Energis, they are going to take the whole transformer, because we would still be required to handle the shell, even if the oil were removed. So it's our recommendation that we award that to Clean Harbors and just and have that activity done and taken off of our hands. The amount is $10,939.35.
Any specific questions?
How many gallons of oil are we talking here?
There's 1,500 gallons
And
of
then
oil.
what are they gonna do with this?
No.
Once they take it, we're totally
Yes.
absolved from it.
The paperwork, the EPA is very stringent on paperwork. Paperwork's developed, we are the owners of the transformer. All the paper path that goes to the driver on the semi, and Clean Harbors does this for a living. This is what they specialize in. And I'm extremely comfortable with them taking this transformer and disposing of it. I gave you a sheet of the oil test results also in the packet. The main tank is 200 parts per million. And then the load tap changer compartment, which has less oil in it, only a couple hundred gallons, is 292 parts per million PCBs. For anybody that doesn't know what a PCB is, a polychlorinated biphenyl, it's a cancer-causing agent, and the EPA is very strict about transformers that have that in their oil. So it's really important that we dispose of this thing properly.
And at one time, all transformer oils had PCBs in it.
That is correct. They actually added that to it. Why, I don't know, but that was way before I started in the industry.
Well, I'm assuming, Joe, by reading down just general conditions here, we don't have to touch it. We don't have to have no loaders, no nothing.
No, they're gonna arrange the crane and everything to come
Exactly.
and get it.
Personally, I think it's
Just,
a wonderful idea.
yeah.
We wash our hands of it, and actually with no liability whatsoever.
How long has this thing been sitting around?
We were using it until a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And then, because of some of the improvements we made on the system, we took it out of service. And originally, I was going to donate the unit to the tech school in Green Bay for their lineman class that they have, so, and then when I found out that it was contaminated, they couldn't take it, so.
Well, it's no question, we gotta get rid of it.
But like George said, this one here for $1,500 more does everything, handles everything themselves, and it's gone.
I'll make a motion that Clean Harbors be approved to remove the Brown Street transformer for a price not to exceed $10,939.35.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
And that's our business this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone wish to address the council on any topic? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Bill Aslan, 507 Second Avenue. What's going to happen to Second Avenue next year? We see sticks going in on along there by Coleman Engineering. I thought I'd come to you people and see what plans are. What's going to happen on Second Avenue, other than the sticks?
Isn't that the,
Safe routes to school.
So what are
It's
they
gonna
going
be
to do?
sidewalk,
Widening the
sidewalk
sidewalk.
improvement. It's gonna be, we're gonna tear out the sidewalks, widen them, and put in new sidewalks.
Oh, there's nothing going to be done with the street then?
I don't know if, where Second Avenue, if it's on the, we have a street project,
There will
plan.
be, well,
Second Avenue is on that, that
88
water sewer.
corners, if you want to consider that part of the street.
Pardon?
88 corners, American Disability Acts, they have to
Well, that,
do all the corners.
Ray had just said, Second Avenue is on the water sewer project.
was
Right
that
now,
part of the
tentatively,
project that you've been talking about?
no, it's a different
Well, that's
water.
that's the phase two of what we're talking about, and because we have both water and sewer within the street, you know, we have to get that project to redo the utilities, and then we'll have.
And then
it
you do the
completed.
street at the same time?
Exactly.
Okay.
We're hoping that if we can get, when I talked to the folks in Lansing, the federal folks in Lansing handling the program, they were waiting until the first part of January to find out where the interest rate was going, because it jumped up in the fall, and they're hoping it's gonna go back down come the first of the year. That's one of the reasons they held off that application. So that leads us to believe, and they were pretty confident that our application was right there to move forward. Because of the amount of time for paperwork, that project probably wouldn't go to field. What do you say, Bruce? I mean, if we get obligated in the spring.
will have construction will be 2015.
15, yeah. And when I laid out a 5-year plan, that's actually where I put that. I mean, it's Second Avenue, it's Second Avenue, Iron Street, Mine Street, Norway, the final parts of Norway. It comes across, we have sections on this side of the highway, Maple, Chestnut, and then down 7th Avenue and Third Ward. So I mean, it's a pretty good sized project. So that's one of the reasons we
This
held off on
project
it.
you're talking about with this wastewater treatment, is that money that have you been budgeting some money to set aside for that, or that you're gonna dump it all on the taxpayers at one time?
We have not been putting money aside for that. That's going to be a loan, and it'll be adjusted into the rates.
Yeah, it's a 40-year,
That's a 40-year, what is it, rate,
2.25.
2.25 interest rate loan.
Now, if you don't expect to live that long, we still have to pay it?
Well, the improvements you make are gonna be around for a long time, so it's actually fair that more people pay for it over a longer period of time
Okay.
than you and I pay for it all.
And I hope you're here for 40 years to pay for it, too, Bill.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Darrell Harder, 615th Avenue. I've got a real problem with the American flags flying that don't have lights on them. And we do a real good job out here keeping our flag lit. People come into town, that's something beautiful for people to look at. But if you take a ride out to Marion Park, we got all our flags flying and no lights on them. They're all over the fields.
the library too, Gerald?
The library, the post office, the Legion, I mean, the list
I
goes
noticed the
on.
library's up.
But,
I see that one often.
you know, these
Lights are
these
on.
belong to the city, and I think that we should, if we're not gonna light them, let's take them down.
Joe, is there any reason that they're left up out, say out Marion Park, is there any reason why they're left up all year round there?
In the
anyhow?
winter, typically, we remove them, but it was an oversight on my part this year. I didn't tell the guys to take them down. Usually do.
Even right across the street at the fairgrounds, they got that flag flying right at the entrance
we
of the
don't have
parking
the
lot, and no
fairground.
lights on them.
But we'll get the ones at Marion Park down tomorrow. And, even in the summertime, you know, in the summer, when we're playing ball out there and everything.
They've got lights on them in the summer.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine then.
Each one has a floodlight.
All right, okay.
Does anyone else wish to address the council? Hey, Lee.
I'm glad to see we made a little progress on that Economic Development Corp. as far as prorating the fee that we have to pay. And I see it's up to the county now. And it's nice to drive through town. We haven't had that much snow, but it's nice to drive down the street and you see the sidewalks on both sides shoveled, and it looks good. Yet there's a lot of places that aren't shoveled, and I'm sure there's good reason, whether they're too old or they can't do it themselves or too icy, whatever. But I've also noticed on some of the boulevards now we're letting people park at night. I mean, so they're off the street. They're plowing the snow and they're totally blocking the sidewalk. So you got a mound of snow 5 feet high on the sidewalk. If you wanted to walk on it, you can't. So I'm sure these people aren't doing it on purpose. So I hope they listen to this and just try to make an attempt not to block the sidewalks with the snow you're plowing off the boulevards. I guess that's all I have to say.
Go ahead, Chris.
I got a few things. I noticed in the packet that we got approved for the grant for the tennis courts up at Marion Park.
That's correct.
We're planning on having that taking place this spring and summer.
Right, this would be a 2014 project.
The trucks, there were mention of the 2 replacement trucks for cable and sewer, I believe. I know you guys are working on getting some numbers on that. You're looking at new and used. I guess I would like to see us look at used trucks for that, and maybe even considering for cable if they need a truck, or if van would work better, or some different vehicle for them. Just some different options for them. I know also they have some issues with the bucket truck in the cable department, and I don't know if this is time to look at that as well, and figuring out the budget on a bucket truck, and if that old bucket truck can be sold and cover some costs. But I know the vehicle costs are be going up there, and I'd like to consider all options for that. Hot patches, I purchased hot patch in the last, in this manifest. Is that hot patch for the winter that we have stored now?
We bought what they had left for the winter,
Okay.
put it inside the building.
How the hot box work for us?
Worked real good.
Things stayed pretty stable. Okay.
Yep.
And my last is just to thank everybody who's been serving on the committees over the year, and encourage anybody who wants to apply for a committee position to come to City Hall and do that. That's all.
Hey, George.
Yeah, I got a couple of them here, Jeremy. On that grant there, Ray, for the Marion Park out there, is, what portion do we have, is ours? And does that go under, what you call it, where we supply material, workforce, equipment,
Yeah, in kind.
in kind?
In kind. We're gonna do the sub-base work. It's mostly sand out there, so we're gonna do the leveling off. With some, we're gonna use the crushed gravel, some of the crushed gravel that we just had crushed up.
Okay.
So we'll use that, and then, of course, everything above that is gonna have to be bid out contractor.
Yeah. If you look through all the grant applications that went into the state, how many came back, and majority of them were all for parks. Handicap, sidewalks, I see, noticed a couple over on for tennis courts there too, so. Okay, is there a breakdown on any of that stuff that we're gonna be doing out there?
Yeah, we're gonna have to put that together. We're gonna have it at Parks and Rec on Wednesday night. Go through it some more detail, and then I'm gonna have to get with Coleman Engineering, and we're gonna have to start getting that breakdown.
Okay, one thing that just entered my mind, is there, reading through all them grants, is there anything, and I know, the snow sled hill up here, that we could do any more? I know years and years and years we've been talking about doing some, little bit of clearing, and so, that we could apply for a grant and do some real nice work up there and make something decent out of it. I
Sure,
mean, it certainly is being used, and it's being used a lot. We're constantly looking for something that would achieve a lot of points. I really think that would be something that would, you know, accumulate a lot of points for recreation and stuff for as much use as it gets. I don't know how to rate it, but I think it would be a good thing to look into and possibly apply for a grant so we could really fix that thing up nice. You know, I'd like to ask the council, what are your feelings on the stuff that I mentioned at the end of last meeting, of bringing this stuff back up, posting it someplace so that it doesn't get forgotten about? Chris, any you'd like to reply on it? Because, you know, there's a number of things, and just like was brought up tonight, Lee, you had mentioned this parking ban. Whatever come of that? The people that come and complained, were they notified back on what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do? My point last week or the last meeting was, when the meetings are over, everybody walks out the door and everything is forgotten about. Nothing is continued and brought through and carried through to the end.
With the parking ban, people who watched the meeting would know, and it was in the write-up in the paper, what was happening with it.
I didn't see it, Jeremy.
I believe it was in the write-up in the paper. It was mentioned in the paper. And the decision that was made, plus it was on TV. The meeting's on TV, the meeting's also on YouTube if people want to watch it.
I am sorry I didn't see it, so that's why I'm bringing it to
I
your
mean,
attention.
specifically with that one. With the other stuff, for the council, it's in the executive memo. And if there's stuff that we need to question on, that's really what we can do right now, is bring it back up and make sure everybody knows. If there's something important that you think everybody should know about, just bring it up now during comments.
I know, but my point is, it's so much easier if it's on the agenda either here or put up on a board someplace where it's constant reminding us, okay, this is the stuff that's in motion and needs to be worked on, and leave it there until it's done and completed, then get rid of it. That is my idea behind this thing, and I brought it up a number of times, and it just doesn't seem to go anyplace. So, I mean, I realize I am getting a little bit older, and maybe I am getting a little forgetful, but this just hasn't started yesterday. I mean, this thing has been going on the council since I've been involved with the thing. That stuff just never gets followed through and taken care of completely.
Excuse me, George. In the minutes of the last meeting, which we passed, sure this is part of it, what you're talking about, you also suggest the staff provide council with an update every meeting on the city utility debt.
Right.
And it's 2 weeks later, and have we got any update on the city utility debt? Like you said, forgotten.
Well, I mean, this is my point. You know, 6 months ago, there was a big issue. Everybody in town talked about it. Whatever became of it? I'm sure everybody was aware of the big issue. Basically, was whether we were going to restripe it to 3 lanes or 4 lanes going through Main Street. That was the issue, really, that was talked about. But the main issue was the speed that was involved with all the cars and trucks that were going through town. What has been done with it?
There really is nothing that's been done. We've continued the discussions on that with the representatives in the state level. They're not willing to push it forward, so nothing is going to be done.
Okay, what's the idea is that Mark, I believe, brought the idea up of posting a sign either coming in on 8th or coming in, especially on the east side of town, coming into town, because they hit the railroad tracks and they're flying, that there's a sign that can be put up there that registers your speed right now. I mean, has that gone any place, or is that out of the question for budget, or?
I know we talked about that. We talked about that with the sheriff's department, I believe, right?
I mean, why
We
does
budget-
it have to go to the sheriff?
Because they're the ones who have the sign.
Well, they have the
Can't
one
we
that's
buy it?
double. We can, but it's not a budgeted item, and it costs about $7,000 or $8,000. So when I brought that forward, which I brought forward, it was that, no, we can't afford that. And as far as the posting on the highway and the speeds, as I put together in the memo to the council, I met with our representatives, and quite frankly, they said it's not gonna happen.
No, Ray,
You know, I mean,
I
so I mean,
realize
I-
that we can't regulate the speed. I realize that.
Right,
I mean, my
but I'm
point
just, I'm
is, I
communicating
think
out.
that there's things that we can do, like the sign posting up there to let everybody know what their speed is when they cross that point. And if it's cost $7,000 or $8,000, personally, I think it would be $7,000, $8,000.
Right, but we brought that
Wow.
forward, and the council said that that needed to be appropriated at the time, you know. We can't just go out and buy it, I mean, that needs to be appropriated because of the expense. So that's where that went. I mean, we'll bring it up again, I mean, if council would like us to purchase those items, you know, we'll go back and we'll try and make it happen. But we bring those forward, and that's, there really is a decision that needs to be made here, you know, if you want to purchase that.
Well, what's the council's feelings of it? I think money,
Are we allowed to put anything on the highway without MDOT's permission?
Well, that would be considered a temporary sign. I think those types of items would be allowed. You know, we could probably get them through, if not on a limited basis, you know, through their maintenance, our maintenance permitting process. But you're right, Chris, I mean, we can't just throw it up there because it's their jurisdiction.
they're down in Marinette, Ray,
Yeah.
along the highway, all over.
Right, but I'm just saying that that's through our TSC, which is Crystal Falls, they made it clear about the sign postings, you know, and even with our billboard issues, you know, you have to go through the Crystal Falls TSC. Now, they will work with us on it, and, you know, in fact, I think it was Julie that brought up about, you know, some frustration with MDOT. The speed limit's actually the state police.
State police, yeah.
Yeah, that, and, you know, they reminded me of that the next time I talked to them. But, you know, MDOT will work with us on it. I mean, it's not, they're out there, and I don't think that'd be a problem. When we talked to the county about using theirs, they had some strict limitations on it. You know, it couldn't sit out there all night. It had to be pulled in. There were some things that it just didn't make it practical for any extended period. You know, so that's why we suggested if we're gonna do it, do our own, you know, buy our own. And then we can move it around.
I mean, I wish the council would reconsider if they had anything to do with it, because the people over on the east end of the city are constantly complaining about speed.
Well, my feelings right now on that, right now, it's not a budgeted item, and there isn't room in the budget to be purchasing extra stuff. If it's something we want to do, we should look at it come next budget, come May. And if we want to work it into that budget, then, but it wasn't factored into this budget, and there really isn't room to be doing a lot of changing. General fund budget ran negative as it was, and
Well,
Last
Jamie,
year.
I hope the council remembers this statement all the rest of the year. This is a statement you made, there's no rule. That's all my point. Okay? Joe, anything on the rink? Have we flooded that yet? Started
Rink is open,
flooding?
George.
It
Ice
is
skating rink is open, open
Is it
Saturday.
advertised? I haven't seen it on
I
TV.
don't know if it's on Channel
Is it?
7, okay.
And it's on the web, and it's on Facebook.
Oh, boy. I guess I'm out of the circle, eh, Trish? Something too, I noticed all your gas purchases, Joe, for the city fleet are pretty much all out of one station. Is there a possibility that maybe we could kind of spread these purchases around a little bit better?
Yeah, I can tell the guys to
I
go
mean,
to, I mean, there's only 2 spots that we would have charge accounts.
We went through that, George,
Yeah.
a while back, and it was who takes the taxes out. Because we had one station in town that wouldn't take the taxes out, and then we had to
I know,
file, so.
but I see everything goes to LaFave there on
Yeah.
99% of it goes to LaFave.
Except for police and my vehicle.
Yeah.
I compensate by going over to Ed's all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks like it's about 99,
Yeah.
5%, so if we could kind of
And-
level that out a little bit better.
Yeah.
Ed doesn't have diesel though, so that's part of it.
Yes, and Ed's does not have diesel. and a lot of our trucks are diesel. But the smaller pickups could go to Ed's.
I guess that kinda, I'd like to, Joe, the guys on the plows and stuff are doing one heck of a job.
Yeah, it's been an interesting winter
Fantastic.
so far. A lot of little snows.
You know, one thing I do get a lot of questions about, especially out of Ed's up there, that the sidewalks there on Walnut and Section, the first two snowfalls, they haven't been hit yet. so-
No, we did not get out the first one
Okay,
to do any of the sidewalks with the machine.
Yeah.
We were pretty busy. And then the type of snow it was soft in beginning because it was really warm when we got the snow. And then in the middle of the night, before we got any vehicles out, the temperature dropped so much it froze everything up.
yeah.
So it put us behind the 8 ball on cleaning the sidewalks, just because everything's so iced up now. We had it out, it's been out 3 times, George, and we focus on the safe routes to school, which was the big driver, and then all the other sidewalks are secondary. So,
It seemed like the downtown area didn't get cleaned up right away this last storm.
yeah, we had it out today.
No, I mean, just in general, being plowed and cleaned
Oh.
up normally.
You did,
Oh, you mean like Main Street?
Main Street,
The
yeah.
Okay.
second time, Chris, when that rain and that slush, they did a heck of a job. You went up and down Main Street a couple times.
Just
and-
remember, our policy
They
is
really
3
did a
inches of snow or
fantastic
more
job.
before we plow. You know, during normal work hours, when we get these little snows, we go out and clean up. But as a general rule of thumb, we don't do a total, complete cleanup till 3 inches or more.
Ray, also, getting back on that, tennis court out there, has the city or the school ever showed any interest in participating and coming up with some funds to help us out on that thing?
I have asked the school, and they have not budgeted at this point from a priority standpoint. So I'm going to go back to the school and ask again, now that we actually have the grant in hand. I know that there are some other organizations that I'm going to be contacting as well.
I know the last year or so, you continue to bring up that the schools don't want to come down here and play or have tournaments or anything down here because the courts are unsuitable, but, I mean, it's kind of hard to understand why the city should bear the whole cost of this if we're strictly doing it for the school. So I guess that's about it.
The only thing I have is I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's. That's the only thing I have. Joe, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything extra.
Mary? Tricia? Jay?
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to our community.
Ray?
No, Merry Christmas.
With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Support. Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Safe roads.